I think it's a good thing, isn't it? Because it's only making the industry and buildings in general safer. So I think it's a good thing that there is more regulation, that there is, a lot more competency, a lot more accreditation, because it's ensuring that everyone is delivering to the standard that we need them to.
It's difficult to demonstrate that specialism or competency unless you do this every single day. And I think the larger contractors that aren't focused on passive fire protection can't.
I think also it's the trend, isn't it, of people are wanting one provider to do more. So they're wanting one provider to take it from kind of the start to the end. They're not wanting to have to go to multiple people.
Yeah, and I think the other pressure you're seeing is a principal designer role under both the Building Safety Act and CDM. That's becoming increasingly important to our clients. And making sure that we're fully competent and got that whole role covered.
Yeah, because it's different. It's not the same as a traditional principal designer role under CDM, and I think that's probably caught people out by surprise because it's called the same thing. So people think it's the same thing when actually it couldn't be further apart, and the way to demonstrate competency is very different. And that is a challenge for all businesses now to get up to speed and be able to properly prove competence and have it documented and be able to, do their duties as a duty holder within the chain of a project. And that's a surprise, isn't it, Gavin? Because we've seen that with some clients now about to embark Gateway 3. And it's actually, hang on a second, Gateway 2 is there for a reason.
Yeah.
There's duties on all of us in this contract, and you need to understand what your duties are as a duty holder.
There's definitely a drive from customers wanting to reduce complexity in this, to have one supplier, PD role, PC role, looking after the contract without having to deal with multiple stakeholders. I think that's a consequence of fire safety overall in our sector, to make sure one company is responsible for all.
Well, that's it. And people want to make their life easier, don't they? It's like when you're building a house, you don't want to have to be responsible for getting a plumber and electrician. You just want one person to come in and deal with it all for you. And people want one person that ultimately will come and make that building safe. And because otherwise, they're taking responsibility. They need to make sure somebody who's professional, who's certified, is coming in and making it safe so that they can put reliance on them too.
I know we're incredibly pleased with our Gateway 2 applications being successful. Why do we think others have struggled so much? What do you think it is that in our approach works that they're still catching people out?
I think it's fair to say that we found it really hard to start with. We're a good sized business, but navigating Gateway 2 was new for everybody to work through. I think that the challenges are working in occupied buildings. It's not a brand new building. Often the wording is around new buildings and new constructed buildings. There's not a one size fits all for existing buildings, and those challenges about changing projects over time and making sure everything is compliant throughout the construction period is really hard.
Yeah, and it's just new for everyone, isn't it? I think where we may have had better success is we've kept it simple. We've not tried to apply for too much in one go. We've been singular in scope in a lot of the cases, which makes it easier to review. And we're obviously used to seeing the data. We always provide this data to clients. It's just now presented in a way that in some ways is very summarised for the multidisciplinary team to check. And if they want to see more detail, they can.
And we've learned from each application ultimately, haven't we? By only doing one, you can focus on that one, get that one right. And then the formula that all the others can follow with. Whereas if you submitted loads in one go and they all came back with the same feedback, you've got an awful lot of work to do then to correct them.
It was always going to be challenging, but I think having the Checkmate way and our own quality management systems already in place as a business made this a lot easier. In fact, some of the items in Gateway 2 we're now putting into our standard processes, even for buildings that aren't needing a Gateway 2 application, and using those similar processes across the board, because we think they're the right things to do for these type of buildings.
Yeah, and I know that our integrated management system, the Checkmate way, we're constantly overhauling that to make it more efficient. But I know one of the big waves of overhaul has been as a result of the Gateway application process.
Absolutely.
And it only improves our service and our standard for all future clients, doesn't it? Like you say, not just people who have to go through.
So I guess the biggest challenge now with Gateway 2 is the length of time. I think the most recent suggestions are now they're hitting 32 weeks. We've moved from the HSE to the Department of Levelling Up, who are now looking after Gateway 2 applications. And the challenge facing the industry now is that's leading to companies taking a view that this is emergency works and undertaking retrospective applications. So whilst we're all for the Gateway 2 process, the view is ideally this will be followed to the T and everybody will be doing it. But we really, really need to get those approval times improved.
I think where the clients are getting surprised now is the fact that actually there's a lot more upfront cost. So the cost of putting an application together, it is time, an awful lot of time, but there's a cost that goes along with that as well. Not just the delays that you're facing, but then once that project starts to mobilise, you've got a new role, which is new, principal designer under building regs. That's not something that was traditionally included in some of our projects in the past. So the old way of working is no longer going to work. It's the new way of working, and that comes with additional costs. And
so we're mobilising lots of big sites at the minute, and the front end steps, the amount, how many more there are, it is really significant. It's taking a lot longer to get to site and make sure everybody's happy and all the stakeholder engagement has been done and everything's documented. It takes considerably more time.
But I think this and all the steps you've got to go through is where we need to introduce more technology. And I think, we are doing that. We're putting an ERP in, but I think as a whole industry, the embracing of technology, of AI is only going to make these processes better. And I think now there are so many steps, we have to do that, because otherwise you'll never get to the point where you can actually get to site. And ultimately these buildings aren't safe and they need the work doing. So embracing that tech, moving things through the system quicker, I think is going to be the forefront of where the industry goes in the next few years.
For me, the things that I think are the most exciting that we're involved with at the minute, I'd go for a couple of things. I'd obviously go through all the consultancy services that we are doing more of. And I think the other thing that I think has been incredibly exciting is the dashboard work that we've done recently to allow clients to look at huge data sets and drill down, and almost moving us into the space of a project management consultancy, a data analysis consultancy, and not just doing passive fire.
I think that's a good point on dashboards, particularly. The amount of data we collect with a golden thread now on fire door inspections just at one site, let alone multiple sites. Being able to get all that data into the cloud, move it around, look at dashboards, be interactive with those dashboards is really helping our clients make some decisions, but also point out trend analysis of damage and abuse to doors, and maybe better buying decisions going forward in terms of more robust doors rather than going for the cheapest option every time.
I think the more data you can collate, the better, ultimately for us to run a business, but also for our clients, because the more you can provide that data to them, the more information they have and they know what they need to do with their buildings. And I don't think you can underestimate the power of the data.
No, exactly. I mean, we can do that for them. We've got the dashboard, we can put the displays or the visuals up that we think are important for them, but they can also do it themselves.
Yeah.
Which is a relief, because they always want something that we haven't thought of, or that is new, or they've seen it from a slightly different view. So the fact that they can just take it and drive it themselves is just brilliant. It saves me a lot of time anyway.
Sometimes overlaying how the clients are using those buildings and the variance in that client's portfolio of properties dependent on use, from heavy industrial to office type environments. The different uses can be overlaid on the dashboard results, and it can help drive the correct decisions for those buildings when you align it to the fire strategies for each individual building.
I think the other thing we've done recently that I really like, and it sort of carries on the theme of data, is when clients haven't got data on their doors, their fire stopping, and then we go and do fire tests, and we generate all that data and explain to the client what it means. And we've obviously got a few projects where we've really significantly saved the client's money. I think that's a really great service, and again, seeing the benefits of analysing data and making the most of that data and turning it into knowledge and wisdom, I think that's a great service to offer.
It's not uncommon when we start these processes that clients don't have any information at all, or very little information about their estates. So anything we can do along those lines makes a big difference, I think.
I think we forget sometimes, that we sort of think we live it all the time. Some consultancy services, fire stopping and fire doors, and we sort of forget that this isn't core business for anybody else, and they need our expertise, and giving them the expertise, giving them the competence, giving them the data is really important to help them deal with another risk on their balance sheet, that we can help them understand that isn't their day job.
And understand it in a more simple way, because although we might understand the complexities of it, they don't. Like you say, that's not their full-time job, is it? So by putting it into a dashboard or something that's really easy for them to understand, I think that's so beneficial for them and what they're trying to do with the information.
But not forgetting it's their data and it's their information. So when it comes to the golden thread of information and keeping all those records, the easier we can make it and the more robust we can make it through these dashboards and information, the better for the client in years to come. I think the really interesting bit about this business is if we look back 5 short years, we had few large contracts, and now we've moved into an arena where we've got some significant CRM and customer relationship clients that are both long-standing but also challenging to ensure that we meet all their requirements, and that's across multiple services. But now with more fire inspection services coming into business, I think it's going to be really exciting next year, where you can potentially add different services into the existing client base as well as new logos.
I think you've seen in general in the industry a move from the kind of one-off project work to more of the framework, which is just a sign of where, this industry is going. But for us, that's been quite a learning point. You have to handle a framework client very differently to that one-off project. And I think that's really helped us develop our different divisions, but also our team members and the different kinds of project management, which is something that we're much better at than we used to be, but also is a challenge that faces people in the future of working those frameworks and working with those long-term clients.
And it's really good with those longer-term clients. Build teams around those clients.
Absolutely.
Some of our university clients have got 8 to 10 years worth of work ahead of them just to get anywhere near where they're supposed to be on their pacifier journey. As we build teams around that delivery becomes easier, and our ability to add value into that client increases.
And that's when you can start offering other services and, like you say, add that value. And those teams are all knowledgeable of all the different things that we do and can help the client be that all-rounded provider of pacifier.
Yeah, it is something I think we've started to do particularly well is look after that client properly and not just assume what they want, really understand what their challenges are and with our experience then help them solve it as easily and painlessly as possible. So a lot of effort goes into that relationships with the clients.